You're listening to part 2 of this episode of Authentic Beyond the Couch. If this is your first time tuning in, you may want to pause here and listen to part 1 before continuing. So, welcome back and let's dive in. Welcome to Authentic Beyond the Couch, the podcast where healing goes beyond the therapeutic room. I'm your host, Jirzia Blackman, and together we will explore real, raw conversations about life, growth, and embracing your most authentic self. This is your space for courage, connection, and healing beyond the couch. Let's dive in. I had community. I had my mom. I had awesome family, extended family, really there for me when I needed, and my church family really there for me when I needed, and people praying for me through those moments. So although that was happening externally, internally, I was still feeling alone and overcompensating. And now I can name what that was. In the moment, I didn't know what it was, but I was just putting my head down and working with anxiety and trying to get through it and trying to get my daughter into good schools. And, like I was just really head down trying to make it. Yeah, trying to survive.
Yeah. And you said something like the community and the support was there for you, but you felt the pain still. What
Mhm.
about women or men or whoever is going through it at the moment that don't have the support?
That's where, when I'm in with my clients, that's the hard part, right? It's like when they don't have, like they literally have no one to go to. And that's where, of course the therapeutic space is there and you try to be as much as you can that support, but then you introduce them to communities, right? You introduce them to community. There's Facebook, there's so many other avenues now that you can tap into and connect with, right? Church homes, or, if you're not in whatever synagogue, whatever kind of, that you believe in, or just like how we're a community, right? And we're colleagues. And but I want to say you're my sister, right? So we're family. But that came out of work, right? That and being vulnerable with each other and saying, hey, I need help, and being open to each other. Like I feel, although I call myself the antisocial social worker.
Love that. You are not antisocial.
I'm so yeah. You're not.
No, but you talk well. Like, I guess you're one of those people that have to like know who's in front of them.
Yes, I'm an omnivore, so I do well by myself. Like, I
Yeah.
love my alone time, and I like my and when I feel like you remember you invited me to something, and, when your extroverted self says yes to an then your
Yes.
introverted self is like,
And then you
"Hell
text
no."
and you're like the introvert one.
The introvert was like, "Hell no, girl, you're not going anywhere."
Stay in the snuggie.
Right, right. And so there are moments where I do isolate myself, but I have to be intentional about building community. I have to be intentional about texting and saying, hey, how are you doing? Hey, you want to meet? Hey, you want to, go out? I have to do that intentionally so that I can continue to build my community. I can find myself even like recently, like going back on Facebook, like I'm like, oh my God, I haven't like reached out to anybody. That's horrible. So I have to be intentional about
You gotta plan it. You literally do. I know I made a goal this year for myself was to meet with somebody, at least one person every single week, either for coffee, for breakfast, for lunch, something, just so I can stay connected because I know like you, we're those people that like to just do,
Yeah.
but we have to remind ourselves, come up for air, be human, be
Yes.
social, connect, grow your circle, help people, let them help you. Because honestly, like, when you go, like, it's really easy to get lost in that.
Yeah. And your head's down and you're feeling like there's nobody here to help me. But like the man on the boat, there is help, but are you willing to take it? Are you willing to be vulnerable to say, hey, yeah, I need help? And I feel like that's where the over functioning was for me. And connecting it to my childhood was because at that time when I was 8 years old, I felt I needed it to survive. Right.
Mhm.
But now I'm 44. I don't need that now to survive. Like I can say I can't handle this, or I need a break, or I need someone, I need help, and I can reach out to somebody to help.
So how did all that all have these big moments in our life, right? There's many. This is just one of your moments.
Mm.
But through that moment, what did you take from it? I always say, like, those failures or those big moments in our life are opportunities for us to learn, right? God puts them there for a reason. We learn from them, we gather information, we collect the data, and then we do something with it. And then it
Mhm.
becomes a little piece of us later on in our true version of ourselves when we step into her. So, what did you take from that you implanted to keep that made you into the woman you are today?
Yeah, I would say 2 things. One was, I don't have to be perfect. And then the other was how strong I was. But the perfection for me stems from growing up in church. And I actually just talked about this, but growing up in church and having this feeling like I had to do everything perfect. You had to like I was a pastor. Like my mom was in leadership. So, you're a leader's daughter, you know better, you got to do better. Right. And then I think just my own personality. I'm a rule follower. And so I like to play by the rules and I don't break rules or bend rules. And so I felt this need to do everything right, to live right, to just have a perfect life. Right. And so now I'm in this relationship and it's horrible and there's emotional abuse and physical abuse and but now I gotta have a divorce? Like, that's so wrong. Like,
Yeah.
my Miss Perfect ain't so perfect after all, right? And so going through that, like, I had to let go of that need to do everything right and find help, like, and just survive, right? And leave, right? So, and that was part of it, but then also I realized how strong I was, and how that um I was able to walk away from that relationship and I was able to be a single mom for a moment in time and show my daughter like it's okay and b- I survived it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's so valuable, like just you sharing all this information with us, with me and the listeners. But what would you give me the top three things you would tell somebody out there today who may be going through one of those moments in their life right now?
The top three things.
I know I caught you off guard with that one.
Yeah, let's see. Top three things. I
Well,
would
let's through it.
I would say community, 1,
Hmm.
therapy, 2. That should be 1. Then, and I feel spirituality, right? And spirituality in whatever form you believe that for you, but just that belief in that there's a higher power than you, right? For me, it's Christ. For me, it's God. For me, it's Jesus. But for whatever that is for you, it's that higher power is what can get you through these situations, right? Believing that there's a purpose and there's a plan. So then you don't give up on your now, right? But community as well, like I feel like that was really important. And if you don't have community, I feel isolation is it's harmful for an individual to isolate themselves. Like it's so because that's where thoughts come and distortions come and no one loves you and that's all these unmet needs and situate like all that becomes in the forefront of your mind when you're just isolated and alone.
And we tend to want to isolate because that's like our comfort. Like, let me hide, let me go. I always tell my people, like, let's go into the cave and we're going to stay in
Mhm.
the cave and it's nice and warm and cozy. But that's the worst place.
Yeah, that's where guilt, shame, and anxiety, like all that lives there. So it's so important to, as much as you can, even little bit by little bit, just out, just talk to somebody, just go to therapy, sign up. There's free therapy if you don't have insurance. Like there's so many avenues that
Mhm.
you can get help. And so I would say those three things, therapy, community, spirituality, really, for me, was the key in those really dark moments to help me get out of them.
Thank you for your story. It was very valuable.
Before I close this episode, I want to name something that stood out to me while I was watching. During my divorce, and I realized that during really difficult moments in my life, I learned, and I learned this in therapy, that I've learned that and not only me, we all do this, but I step into my adaptation, which is your subconscious defense mechanism. And for me, my adaptation is overfunctioning. So here I am, overfunctioning through the pain. I was surviving by doing, fixing, managing, holding everything together. If you look at it, I was a human doing, not a human being. And maybe you can relate to that. We find ourselves just doing, and not being still and being. This reminded me of a story in the Bible of Mary and Martha, where Martha found herself just doing. So when I looked at it through a nervous system lens, it totally changed the picture for me. Martha isn't doing anything wrong. Doing is not wrong. I want to make sure I make that clear. She was serving, she was hosting, she was caring, she was being responsible. She was doing exactly what she probably been doing all her life and was being praised for it instead of feeling and sitting. So it's sort of like the serenity prayer, the latter part of it, where it talks about having the wisdom to know the difference. Notice what Jesus says to her, not her actions, because her actions were not wrong, but he calls out her state of mind. He says, you are worried and distracted by many things. That's nervous system language. Martha isn't sinning. She is overactivated. And how many of us can relate? We are just doing and overactivated, not paying attention to our body and what our body needs. Well, how do I know if I'm overactivated? Well, the body tells us, the body keeps score. You feel pain, back pain, headaches, neck pain, stomach ache. Our body is telling us that we are overactivated. Mary, on the other hand, she was still, she was present, she was attuned, and she was regulated at Jesus's feet. And Jesus says something to Martha about Mary's disposition. He says something because presence comes before service. Being comes before doing. And so Jesus highlights this to Martha by saying to her that service that doesn't come from a place of rest will always turn into resentment. Martha was not frustrated at her sister Mary. It was about her overextending herself without regulating, not identifying the season and the time, the moment that she just needed to be sitting and listening to her body. Our nervous system learned a long time ago when we were young, when we were babies, our nervous system learns how to adapt. For me, because of my experiences, my nervous system learned that doing equals safety. So now I'm retelling the story. And in 2026, I am going to tell myself that being is safe too. So healing isn't about doing more spiritually or practically. For me, it's about giving my body new data, new information that rest is good. Little by little, we're going to rewire my brain. We're going to rewire our brain. For a long time, when I prayed, I would often ask God, what can I do? What can I do? Where do you want me to be? What's my purpose? What's the plan? But in 2026, I'm going to do it a little bit different. For me, I'm going to ask God, how can I just be? In this moment, what do I need to be? Do I need to be doing? Do I need to be sitting? Do I need to be resting? Do I need to be praying? But just listening to my body. Because somewhere along the way, many of us have learned the same lessons. We've received messages where we are now operating under those messages subconsciously. We learned various messages, and we can learn it from work, from church, from families, from our environment. You can rest when you're dead. So what's that saying? Exhaustion is normal and rest becomes optional. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So what's that telling our nervous system? That we need to always be on guard, always bracing, always ready for something to happen, but we cannot be resting. Push through, no pain, no gain. Oh, I think that's probably one of the worst ones, right? No pain, no gain is basically telling ourselves to ignore our bodies, ignore what you're feeling, just push through. Time is money. That says to us that if you're slow, then you're wasting time, you're wasting money. Or what about the messaging, do what you love so you would never have to work another day in your life? So what does that say? If I'm finding myself tired or if I'm overwhelmed, then I must be doing something wrong, because if I was doing what I love, then I wouldn't feel those feelings. However we paint it, all of these messages sit in our nervous system and they settle there. They can come wrapped in spiritual language as well. For some of us, how about God helps those who help themselves? That says dependence feels like a failure. Or this is the big one, which I would do all the time and say, faith without work is dead. It's totally misapplied, which then insinuates that faith equals performance we have to do in order to be faithful. Or the idea that we must be on fire for God. So what does that say? If we are still and quiet, then we must be doing something wrong. Or how about this one? Idle time is the devil's workshop, which indicates that rest is something to fear. It's different languages, but for our nervous systems, it's the same outcome. A nervous system that never rests, a body that's always bracing, a soul that feels like it has to earn permission to just be, to just rest. And maybe the work now isn't to do more. I know for me, my work in 2026 is going to allow myself to rest, to rewire and to relearn what a human being is rather than a human doing. If this resonates with you, you are not alone and you're not broken. We were trained for this. We were trained this way. So here's my invitation. I'm doing this challenge for 2026. I've started already. If you want, you can join me. For the next few days, I want you to take a minute out of the day and I want you just to be. 1 minute, just be. 1 minute where nothing is required of you, where you can sit, you can breathe, you can let your shoulders down, you can release your jaw, and you can just inhale and exhale. You can put your hand on your heart and you can just say to God, help me to just be. That 1 minute matters more than you can even think. Regulating is not laziness. Rest is a biological need. It's not a reward. We need this. Even God rested. If you want or need support with this, if you are in the Texas area, please contact Rhapsody Counseling at 210-286-9339. And we have amazing therapists that can walk this journey with you. Or visit my website, authenticbeyondthecouch.com or www.rhapsodycounseling.com. So I want to leave this with you. You are worthy before you produced anything. So if nothing else stays with you from this episode, let it be one thing. You are enough. Just being. Not fixing, not proving, not earning, no matter what you've been through, no matter your experience, no matter if it's a divorce, wherever you are, wherever you find yourself, you are worthy and you are enough. And don't forget, share it with someone who may need to hear it. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Authentic Beyond the Couch. I hope today's conversation brought you insight, comfort, and simply reminded you that you are not alone on this journey. If you found this episode meaningful, please follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who may need to hear it. You can connect with me on Instagram at authenticbeyond_the-couch for more resources and authentic conversations. Until next time, keep showing up as your most truthful self and remember, healing can continue even beyond the couch.